Welcome to the Mile High Podcast. This is your host, Dr. Daniel Knowles. And for this podcast, even though we're at 5,280 feet, we're going to say aloha because I am glad to introduce on this podcast the one and only Dr. Russ Rosen, who I have been a huge fan of for a number of years, good friend. And before we get into introducing Dr. Russ more, I would like to say, remember to mark your calendar because Mile High comes early this year. It's going to be in June, the weekend of June 2nd to 5th. Is where you want to be at Mile High altitude. So reserve your calendar, mark it in red, whatever you need to do to clear it and be there. There's no higher chiropractic party on the planet. And right now, the party's with Dr. Russ Rosen. He's a dynamic, passionate, enthusiastic chiropractor. And not only is he a chiropractor, he's an author, he's an international coach, an educator. He's run a very successful practice in Maui for 14 years. He's very well known for patient care versus patient scare communication systems, moving people away from scare care. He served with Dr. Patrick Gentempo as a lead author and director of their Creating Wellness Management System. He's done so much in chiropractic. Thank you for joining us today, Dr. Russ.
Aloha, brother. Good to see you again. So glad to be here.
Glad to have you here. When was the last time we saw each other in person? It's been a little too long.
I was just thinking that through. It had to be 96 or 97 was probably the last time I saw you in person, which, wow.
Years go by. Hey, I still remember opening up in South Carolina and getting on the phone with you before I was doing my first ever spinal screening saying, Russ, what do I do? And you so freely giving of your time and helping me out.
Oh, I'm so happy I did that. I don't recall, but I'm glad I did.
Yeah. So thank you for I know you. A lot of people listening may not know you. Share a little bit about you so people get to know you. Like, what's your journey into this world that we call chiropractic? How did you find your way there?
Yeah, I when I was 8 years old, I had a terrible accident and I ended up seeing a chiropractor who really saved my life. And I decided that day that I was going to be a chiropractor. And it was kind of fun because at my graduation, I was valedictorian and they said that I could, I had wrote why I wanted to go to chiropractic school was that this guy just saved my life. So he was very old at the time, but he got to show up and we got to honor him. It was just such a beautiful thing because, this guy made such an impact in my life and so much, even some of what I'm going to be talking about today, I learned, from him, then went to chiropractic school, opened a practice, then moved out to Maui. I had a very successful, wonderful family practice for 14 years in Hawaii. 7 of those years was, doing NSA with Donnie. And then I started coaching. And, I've been coaching for nearly 22 years now in what I call a care versus scare, true optimal health model. Meaning, if you want to help people get healthy and stay healthy and have their very best life possible, that's my superpower. And I never want to use scare tactics. I just want to empower people. So for those who just want to get people out of pain, far out, that's okay. I have nothing wrong with that. I have one of the chiropractors I see helps me get out of pain. But if you want to help people get healthy and stay healthy and have their very best life, well, that's really the docs I love to work with.
Outstanding. And let me ask you something. As someone who's practiced many years, what did you find? What's one or two things that you found most rewarding about practicing?
Well, probably there's two things that pop into my head at this moment. And it's been a while since I've practiced, but it would be the same answer for practicing and coaching one is that presence with the human being that I'm with. And I've been a failure at meditation since 1978. I just that trying to get between the thoughts and that whole routine. And I 3-4 times a year I give it a shot, and I always suck at it. But there's nothing like being with the patient or being with a coaching client where I'm just 100% present with them. And in that place is where magic happens. And then the second piece is for them, just when the light goes on, when the paradigm shifts, when their world changes, and when somebody's life is better because of something we've just done, that really turns me on, brings me a lot of joy.
I call those the thing that lights me up most in practice still to this day. I call them light bulb moments.
Yeah.
It's where something happens that either they get something conceptually or something changes in their care, or say this was it could be a big symptomatic change, or could be a big mindset change, or could be some awareness of their body, but like those moments, and they kind of just sprinkle during the day. You never know when they're going to happen. It's kind of like gifts that show up. So
yeah, I'm with you on that. I think it was Pat who had us do the tombstone exercise. Did you ever do that?
Yep.
And mine is small pebble, huge ripple. It's just, I had a practice, and I saw, a fair amount of volume, but it wasn't on a global scale, but the ripple effect and the changes that happen in people's lives, it was just such a wonderful and empowering thing. And same thing with coaching clients, when, I see the impact when they're, seeing X number of people and having somewhat of an impact, and now they're seeing 5X or 10X, and they're having a bigger impact, and they're making more money, and they're happier. It just brings such joy to have that type of, impact in people's lives.
I totally understand. So, and now you're impacting lives, mentoring them.
Yeah.
And tell me what's the joy in that for you?
Yeah, you've got these people that there's several different kinds of people that I work with. And, one is they're just getting out of school, and the other is they're 40 years in practice and never quite had the practice of their dreams, and everywhere in between. Every once in a while, I'll have somebody who is thriving, they're doing extremely well, and they're just trying to fine tune something. But more often than not, they're not having the practice that they had hoped for. They don't have the life that they had hoped for. They had big dreams when they got out of school, and it's just never come to fruition for them. And when you look at the impact on their life of not ever making it, it's huge. I mean, it goes to every aspect of their life. And when I'm able to help them get extremely clear about their truth, and when I start working with chiropractors, more often than not, and I'm always dealing with headspace and procedure. It's like rungs of a ladder. You're just walking up a ladder. I need headspace and procedure. And more often than not, when I ask them, what is chiropractic? What are you trying to accomplish with people? How do you know if you've accomplished it or not? Why do you use nutrition or not, therapies or not? All these things or not. When I ask them those kinds of questions, I mostly get a deer in headlights. And then it's kind of like, well, no wonder you don't even know what your product is that you're bringing to the marketplace. And there's kind of two sides of that coin. One is, it's the route. I help people get healthy and stay healthy. I do this and I do that.
Right.
And then there's when they get honest with me and they whisper, like, I don't know that I can deliver those goods. I hear these kinds of stories at all the seminars, but I come back to my practice and I don't know that I can do that. And one of the things I talk about in certainty is that if I have that going on, right? Chiropractic fixes everything. Chiropractic heals everyone, right? And then I go back to my practice and I recognize, well, that's not true in my practice. There are some people I work with who don't come along as I would hope, which everyone I've ever talked to acknowledges that that's true, in our practice, that some people just don't come along as we would hope. So either chiropractic is a lie or I suck. So which one of those leads to building a great practice? Neither. So when we find the truth, what is your truth about chiropractic? What is your truth about what you can do for people? And then once you're clear about that, then we look at how to communicate that with other human beings and be honest with them about what your expectations and their expectations are, versus this, if I adjusted them, they're getting better. Really? Like, I dig the rap. I used to be that way. I get it, but it's just not true. Some people die, some people don't come along. Some people don't have the results that we would have hoped. That's reality. And the problem is when we don't acknowledge that, then we can't swing for the fences with everyone, because what if I don't help this one in front of me? Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
I actually was talking to Scott Walker about this, NET, if you know Scott at all. We were having dinner and he said, what keeps you up at night? And I go, what do you mean? He goes, what just wakes you up in a cold sweat and scares you? And I said, I'm really good at helping people understand that they want to work with me. And I also live on a very small island and everybody knows me. And what happens if I tell someone I'm going to help them and then I don't? And he goes, I fixed that. And I went, I'm all ears. What is it? He goes, well, I developed, NET. And I went, and that fixed it? And he goes, oh no. And he goes, and I did acupuncture. And I go, did that? And that fixed it? And he goes, oh no. And then I added nutrition. I went, did that fix it? And he goes, oh no. I said, then you added, he goes, then I added homeopathy. I go, did that fix it? And he goes, no. Because no matter what, like Jimmy Parker said, 90, 80, 10, 10, right? He said, what I do is I just let everyone know my main goal is to make sure you're in the right place to get the care that you need. And my promise is I'm going to help. I'm either going to recognize I'm the right doc and I'll be able to help you. And if for some reason I don't think I'm the right doc, I'll do whatever I can to get you somebody else who might be able to help you, but I'm not going to waste your time and I'm not going to waste your money. And then I can swing for the fences and I can get extremely clear about with what's going on with you, what can we hope for?
Right.
Right. And those are the kinds of things that can just free people up.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
You follow on that? Does that make sense?
Yes. And I think we're going to be diving deeper on many things. Before we do that, let's dive deep on, in your vernacular, how do you see subluxation and the adjustment in your mindset, not your worldview, not a Stevenson's textbook, but how do you see subluxation and the adjustment in Russ's world?
All right, in Russ's world, here's how it goes. And my version of this comes from the many different far out fringe techniques that I do. Okay, so here we go, NSA. Right? Atlas only, Logan basic. I do a lot of AK based techniques, right? KST, QN, QNRT, do a lot of different things. And everything works. So how can everything work if the subluxation is a bone out of place? Well, clearly it's not a bone out of place. So here's my world. And again, it may not fit in everybody's, but it does work for me. And the doctors I coach, it usually sets them free that no matter what they're doing, they see how it works. Mm-hmm. To me, a subluxation is not a thing, it's a state of being. That state of being is a state of disafferentation, disefferentation, safety pin cycle, right? So we've got, you step on a nail. Does that hurt the bottom of your foot?
Yes.
Yeah, of course it does. And could that affect your ankle?
Of course.
And could it affect your knee? Yeah, and your hip. Yes, and the lateral tract that goes up, right? Those tracts, which I don't remember the names of, could it affect those? Yeah, and could it affect the lumbars? Yes, and could it affect the cranial nerves? Yes, and could it can affect everything up. And now we got garbage out. And now we got garbage in and garbage out and garbage in and garbage out. And now we have a state of disafferentation, disefferentation. Mm-hmm. When we do an adjustment is a neural contact. It's a neural input. I'm doing something which is, look, if you've, obviously you know this better than anybody, with a network contact, we'd go like that. Heck, we used to stand across the room back in the days, right? And we just sit and look at the spot and they'd go into a wave. It's a neural input, it's a neural contact. So the question is, if the subluxation is this bone out of place, then clearly I need to do that. I used to palpate from T1 to L5 every time I adjusted somebody using NSA, but I never did an adjustment there. I was doing a neural input somewhere here or sacrum coccyx, but it was having an effect in the mid-back. The thoracics were clearing up, the digestion was getting better, etc. So far, so good?
Yeah.
So now again, I know that this is blasphemy, but hang in there with me. Can you measure a subluxation? Here we go. Can you measure the wind? No. You can measure the effects of the wind. Like I got a couple hundred skydives. I can see a windsock, but that's not the wind. That's measuring the effects of the wind. Can you measure a subluxation? No. You can measure the effects of a subluxation. So is there anything that a subluxation would not affect or could not affect physiologically?
No.
All right. So then is there any physiological test that could not be giving you feedback on what's going on with subluxation?
It could, but then has to do with how, to what degree.
Absolutely. I'm with you 100%. I'm just saying physiologically, like, heel tension, foot flare, rigidity, breath, palpation. Those are all ones I happen to like to use. But could acupuncture pulses give you feedback as to what was going on in the overall communication system, nervous system? Yes, it can. I personally have, coached chiropractors who are also acupuncturists, and they'll see the changes. What about a spit, pee, and poop test? What about blood work? I'm not saying those are the best tests. I'm just saying that those are physiological tests. So if it's a state of disafferentation, disefferentation, and I'm doing a neural input somewhere so that I can reboot the computer, I can get the brain to reassess the situation and reorganize at a higher level, then that is an adjustment. If I do this, is that an adjustment? Only if that led to a reorganization at a higher level. Let me give you an example. A lady I saw about 6 weeks ago, she got Parkinson's and she's got the shuffle, right? She also has toes that go like this, and she's scheduled for surgery. And so I check her out in my way of checking, and it shows that there is a cranial nerve subluxation. So I clear that out. It happened to be taste. So I put in, salt, sweet, bitter, blah, blah, blah. And we cleared that out. All of a sudden, she can taste those again. The second thing shows up is a sensory nerve in the foot. I do an adjustment on the sensory nerve in the foot, right? Because I'm just asking the body, where is the disafferentation? How can I do a neural input to have the best effect on your body? As soon as I did that, her toes that were like this straightened out. They just completely straightened out right there. She's scheduled for surgery. She gets up and 70 or 80% of her shuffle is gone. Here's the question. Was that a neurologic input that I did? Those two adjustments, were they neurologic inputs?
Well, anything that comes in the field of the body is going to be a neurological input.
Therefore, the answer is yes. So I gave it a neurologic input. Did her system take that neurologic input and reorganize at a higher level?
Yes.
Hell yes. Hell yes. I didn't mention her shoulder. Her shoulder was stuck like this, and she did the little shuffle thing. Her shoulder comes back, her toes straighten out, and her shuffle is 80% better. I'm going to suggest physiologically, and all the other things, the heel inversion, and heel tension, blah, blah, blah. So if, to my world, an adjustment is a neurologic input to cause the nervous system, including the brain, obviously, to see the information and reorganize at a higher level, if that is what an adjustment is, then I can go anywhere. I can be an Atlas only and get great results. I can be a Logan Brown thumber and get great results. I can affect change in the thoracics by only touching here if I'm doing NSA, because it's the neurologic input that's allowing the system to reorganize at a higher level. Danny, for 6 times in my life, I have adjusted or tried to adjust dead bodies. Not one of them ever got up. And I'm not kidding. Not one of them ever got up and said, far out, man, that was great. Thank you, Russ. Because I figured in Cadaver Lab, if I got one of them to get up, they'd have to give me my license, right?
Yeah.
So I was doing best, I was trying to crack all kinds of stuff. They never got up. So the adjustment, there's a stimulus and a response. The neurologic input is the stimulus. The response, the innate intelligence, not innate stupidity, that is the adjustment, right? It's their innate wisdom doing the adjustment. So long answer of that is it's a state of disapparentation, disapparentation. Might I feel a bone here? Yes. Might I feel it tighter here? Yes. But that isn't the subluxation. That is an effect of the subluxation. Just like the windsock is an effect of the wind. It's not the wind. This here isn't the subluxation. It's an effect of the state of disapparentation, disapparentation, which is why I can take a global view in the people that I coach and say, regardless of what you do, it works when it does. And it doesn't when it doesn't.
Now, bringing that with that whole big picture that's the chiropractic world and subluxation adjustment, communication around that, because for the most part, the people that most chiropractors come in touch with live in a different world than chiropractors live with, in terms of their experience of health and well-being, right? That's a generality, but it's fairly certain. The communication, so often people go into an area of scare care, as you term, as compared to care. Why do we want to avoid scare care?
One thing is that I think it's unethical. 2 is I just can't imagine spending my life that way. 3, if you ever read Bernie Siegel's Love, Medicine, and Miracles, he said the one thing that I see that the people have in common who make it compared to the ones who don't is that they're not in fear, right? They have hope. They're not in fear. And he says, when I tell people that they have cancer, and I do tell them that they have cancer, in the same breath, I say, and I'm going to introduce you to 5 people today who had the same cancer as you, who were better. Whereas us chiropractors are telling them, when I say subluxation, I want them to cry because they have the silent killer. Great. That's a way to start off a relationship. Good for you. That's a way to start off healing. No, that's nonsense. So I don't want to use it for that reason. Again, I can't imagine spending my whole day scaring the shit out of people. Also, in the neuroscience of communications, I'm bringing them into their amygdala, which is fight or flight. And in the amygdala, they're not sending information to the neocortex for thinking, reasoning, and problem solving. So we can't make it into the limbic system as a new belief system that can take them to new levels, that can take them to health. They're running away from instead of running towards. So for all those reasons, I don't like scare.
Got it.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Now, you talk about the neuroscience of communication. And so there's a little bit of neuroscience into the difference of, scare care. My concern with scare care often is that you're allopathizing the subluxation, to start. In addition to that, what is important to you about the neuroscience of communication? Why is that important to chiropractors?
Yeah, look, here's the deal. The neuroscience of communications is the neuroscience of communications. I happen to be applying it to chiropractic. But if I'm talking to my wife, I'm talking to my child, I'm in line at a bank and something happens, I'm always going to use the neuroscience of communications to help another human being understand what I'm trying to get across. So the neuroscience of communications, and again, in our case, the reason why I want to do it, and you just said so, is the average person, when you say chiropractor, they think neck pain, back pain, headaches, right? neck pain, back pain, headaches. I know, Danny, that's not how you practice. So
Right.
there's a huge Grand Canyon of a gap between neck pain, back pain, headaches, and get healthy, stay healthy, and have the very best life possible. Be your very best, or whatever it is that your rap is, right? There's a huge gap. So we use this chart right here. So -10 is near death, and we know it because you're in hospice care. And then 0 is I'm comfortable, I feel all right. And then +10 is I'm as healthy as I could possibly be. Healthy as I could be. Okay. So when I talk with chiropractors about once they're out of pain, what is your conversation like with people? What are you talking to people about? Now, Danny, I know the way you practice, you know how to talk to people this way. Most chiropractors don't.
Right.
So here's the question. Is it true, and I'll ask you this, if your patients really understood what you were trying to get across to them, they'd have a better chance of following your recommendations? Is that true?
Yes. And if they really understood what we were getting across, then they would go to chiropractic school.
I'm good with that. I'm all right. I'm good with that. Unless they have a different life purpose, right?
Yeah.
But if they really get it,
Yeah.
then they'll probably follow our recommendations.
Right.
So
Exactly.
many of us are frustrated with the number of people who really get what we do. And when I talk with people about it, they're like so frustrated. I thought they were with me, then all of a sudden they were drooling, or I thought they were, they got it, then they didn't come back to the report of findings, or they got it at the report of findings, but they had to go home and think about it. Or I had somebody who was under care and they were doing really great, and then they never came back, and I never heard from them again. And here's the bad news. You caused it. More often than not, you caused it.
Absolutely.
So if that's true, and I'm not saying 100% of the time, but more often than not, you caused it. You don't know what you did, which is what I want to talk about, but you probably caused it. If that's true, then what's the good news?
The good news is you can change that.
Yeah. If you caused it, you can change it. That's the good news. So when I work with docs, I first just help them look at their real life numbers, look at what are people really getting and what would you like them to get? And that's a big leap right there. And how are we going to get them to get it? So here's the basics of the neuroscience of communications. Reptilian brain, food fighting fornication. It filters information, and 94 to 98% of all information is not making it past the reptilian brain into the neocortex. It's filtering it out, right?
Right.
All right. What does the neocortex do for a living? Thinking, reasoning, problem solving.
Right.
So I want my information to get past the reptilian brain to the neocortex for thinking, reasoning, and problem solving. And if it makes sense, which our information does, it'll drop into the limbic system naturally, which is emotions, belief systems,
right?
All buying decisions, right in the limbic system. It's not happening from here, thinking, reason, and problem solving. We think it is, but it's not. Your dad used to talk about this.
Right.
In the seminars, right? So the deal is that on an average conversation, 25% of what you and I are saying, the other person is actually hearing, because one, they're thinking about how they're going to respond. They might be thinking about, does that say Sherman Chiropractic or college? Yeah,
college.
They might be thinking, is that Sherman Chiropractic? They might be thinking, what do I need to pick up on the way home? Like the brain goes 7 times faster than the average conversation. And so it gets a lot of room for all this going on where they only hear about 25%. Here's my question to you, Danny. When you're communicating what's going on and you're communicating with the patient, what percentage of your information would you like to get past the reptilian brain to the neocortex for thinking, reasoning, and problem solving?
Well, I mean, you'd like 100% of it, but that's not going to be the case ever.
Okay. I'm gonna suggest that we want 100%, and you can get really close.
Okay.
And I can prove it. Right. I literally can prove that they can get it, because I'm going to be asking them questions, and they're going to be thinking and responding that I can see they got it or they didn't. So here's the deal. Let's say it's not 100%. Who cares? I want it to be more than 25%, right?
Right.
By a lot.
Right.
All right. Well, how do I do that? Well, I need to understand that what you and I were taught was we were taught to educate. We were taught to tell the story.
Right.
Tell the chiropractic story.
Right.
And it doesn't work unless it does. It doesn't work more often than not because they don't care. And the way it works is the reptilian brain, as soon as it recognizes that this isn't something of great importance, it goes back to sleep like a lion that's sleeping until it sees a gazelle. It sees a gazelle and now it's interested, right?
Right.
So if it's not about food, fighting, or fornication, they're probably not listening unless you make it new, novel, exciting, and about them.
Right.
If it's about them, they're interested. If it's about Dee Dee, if it's about BJ or his dog Fluffy or his wife Ruth or Donald Epstein or Danny or Russ, they don't care. They only care if they can see how that applies to their story and how they can get what they want from it.
I want to say something about that that's super important, because the few things that you said, a lot of things there, but it being about them and it being novel perennially, and I don't know if perennially is the right word to use, repeatedly, people graduate from chiropractic school super enthusiastic about whatever technique they decide to hold their hat on. Gonstead, Blair, Network, BGI, AK, whatever it is. And then they meet people, they proceed to tell them, AK is the most amazing thing since sliced white bread. You've got to do it, or whatever it is. Exactly.
And they don't care.
Right.
They don't care.
I understand.
Yeah, what they do care about is what? About
them.
Now, if you can help them understand that this will help them, they're interested.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I was doing a talk in Colorado, and Bill Esteb was in the front row. And I said, look, if you can help them understand that if they have lint in their belly button and you can take the lint out, that's going to help them and fix their problems, they care if they have lint in your belly button. And I said, Bill, would you do me a favor? Lift up your shirt. He lifts up his shirt. He swear to God, he goes like this and he pulls lint out of his belly button. He goes, I actually have lint in my belly button. Anyhow, the point is this, is I need to draw their story out of them and apply my story to their story. And the way I'm going to do that is through Socratic questions, stories, and metaphors. Right. So if I want to speak from my neocortex to your reptilian brain, so you'll send it from the reptilian brain to your neocortex, I can't do it by telling you, Danny, what do I have to do?
You have to help them understand.
I have to help them understand by asking Socratic questions, stories, or metaphors. So here's an informational question. What's your last name?
Knowles.
Did you already know that, or is that new?
No, it's not novel.
Yeah, not new, not novel, not exciting. You knew it. That's not a Socratic question. A Socratic question is, why do you think this is going on? Why don't you think this is getting better? What do you think brought this on in the first place? What level of health would you like to get to? Like, those are questions which make them do this. That's a Socratic question. It makes them go, and if I can cause them to, and you'll see them go like this, then they'll look at you. So remember I was saying 100%? I have very specific information I'm going to walk them through. I'm going to ask them Socratic questions, and then I'm going to summarize, and then we're going to come back and I'm just going to ask them these questions. And they either got it or they don't. If they got it, great. I know they got it. If they don't, I know where they don't have it. I can ask them another Socratic question, and now I know they got it. Right. But I have a rule, which is I have very specific points that they need to understand, or they're not allowed to leave the room. right? So like, I'm really clear about what we're going to get across, and I'm going to do it through Socratic questions, stories, and metaphors. So far, so good?
Yep.
Here's an example. I'm going to draw your story out of you like this. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to draw your story out of you. Now, this is my story, chiropractic. This is what I want to tell you. What we were taught to do was we were taught to tell the story. You got to tell the story, right? You got to tell the story. You got to tell the story, right? That's what we were taught to do. But as we do this, they go to sleep. They nod as they drool. They smile and they're nice, but they don't care and they fall asleep. But if I can draw your story out of you and I can apply my story to your story, this sandwich right here, which is our story, gets dropped into your limbic system. You went to your neocortex, thinking, reasoning, and problem solving, dropped into the limbic system. And this is now your story. This is yours. It's not mine anymore.
Right. Right.
So in the consult, in the exam, in the report of findings, in the daily regular visits, re-exams, re-reports, in the healthcare classes, there's a series of questions we're going to ask people. We know the question. We know what we're trying to accomplish. And as soon as we accomplish it, we move on.
Right.
Danny, what you said was very, very important. So here's how it works. If I give the reptilian brain not enough information, it gets frustrated, and what's it do?
It gets defensive.
Yep, it goes like this, and it won't send information up. If I give it too much information, what does it do?
It overloads.
Go overload, right?
Shuts down.
I have to know the question I'm asking, what I'm trying to accomplish, and as soon as I accomplish it, move on. In the beginning of a consult, I want to build rapport.
Mm-hmm.
Should take about 15 seconds, okay? Now, is this the time to teach them about the word subluxation? No. Is this the time to make them wrong about that we don't crack back? No. What is this time for?
Connecting.
That's it. Connect, build rapport. That's it. As soon as I see the flicker of light that we have rapport, I move on. Mm-hmm. Next step, I want to relieve concerns and fears. So this is interesting. Why do I want to relieve their concerns and fears from a neuroscience of communications perspective?
So they hear the message.
Yes, but why won't they hear the message if they have anxiety or fear? What part of the brain are they in?
They're going to be in the reptilian part of their brain.
They're going to be in the amygdala, which is fight or flight. If I'm in fight or flight, I'm not sending information to the neocortex for thinking, reasoning, and problem solving. I'm running from a lion. Do I have to think about, I wonder how much that weighs? Is that an African lion? No, I got to run. So if they're in anxiety and fear, they can't send the information out. So the whole process is get rapport, right? So now they're sending information up to the neocortex, dropping it in the limbic system, relieve concerns and fears. Find out why they're actually here. More often than not, they don't know why they're here, but we can, through a series of questions, help them get that. You with me?
Yep.
All right. Now, I know that we are long time-wise.
Well, that's what happens when you and I get together.
Yeah. So I can go into this part or not. If we want to just, I can just show something else. I'm happy to do whatever you want.
Well, we're talking about people getting it. How do we get our practice members to get what we want them to receive? How do you know if they've gotten it?
Because like here's what's going to happen. I know by the end of the examination, they're going to say this. I have subluxations that could be causing my chief complaint, as well as all these other things you found going on in my life. I mean, it's amazing. I know probably what brought them on in the first place. I know what happens if I don't get it taken care of. I know what happens if I do get it taken care of. And I recognize that subluxation or nerve interference is really more of a health problem then the back problem, I want to get healthy and stay healthy. I want to have the best life possible. And I know that you can help me do it. So here's my question. If they said that out loud by the end of the first visit, would that be valuable?
Yeah.
Yeah, be real good. So remember I said there are certain things they're going to have to say out loud or they don't get to leave the room, right? So if I walk them through my exam and I'll just give a very quick hit on this and then say I'll give you a link at the end people can go to, and I have an on-demand program for free where I go into extreme detail about how to do it. But you know, if they, let's say their chief complaint is here, and I'm going to meet them with their chief complaint. How come? Because that's what they care about. Am I going to try and get rid of that? No. Am I going to try and mask it? No. But they need to know that I know what their chief complaint is.
Right.
So, you know, again, I had teachers that said, never talk about their symptoms. You know, I get it. I dig it from a chiropractic philosophy, but it's got nothing to do with them. We need to make it about them. So my phrase would be oftentimes if you have, and the patient health problem or back problem, the patient is holding this Merrick chart kind of thing with some extras in it. They have it on a clipboard.
Right.
And I say, you know, oftentimes if you have a subluxation causing these kinds of headaches, it'll be tender right there. Is it tender there? Well, yes, it is. We may have found an underlying cause of your problem. And it makes sense because this nerve goes to there. Sidebar. Now, does this mean that this is what I'm going to adjust?
No.
Not at all. If I'm a Logan basic guy, I'm never going to touch that. Right? If I'm doing quantum neurology and it's a sensory nerve issue, I'm not going to touch that. But I do need to connect the dots for them in their body of how their nervous system works. So if you do have that, it could be causing that. And it makes sense because the greater occipital nerve goes to right there. When you brush your hair, does it feel tender right there? How did you know that? Well, that nerve goes right to there. Now, oftentimes, same phrase, if you do have a subluxation causing these kinds of headaches.
The thing is, then people feel received.
Exactly. They feel heard. Now, I'm going to help them understand the style of work that I do, how I'm going to adjust, that I may not be doing it here. That comes later, but that's not now. That's not now. This is about them understanding what's going on in their health and their nervous system, so I can then bring them to the next level, which is how I'm going to do it. So if you do have that going on, Danny,
right,
we may notice spaciness, dizziness, mood swings, brain fog, eyes, ears, nose, throat, sinus issues, ADD, ADE. If you ever get any of that crap, and they look at it and they go, yes, and you go, great. Can you take your pen and underline those? So they circle, see one, they circle headaches, they underline those. Now I get it. Docs tell me, yeah, but now we're talking about symptoms. Yes, I'm meeting them at symptoms. I'm going to end up with, do you just want to get out of symptoms or do you want to get really healthy? And here's how we know that you're really, really healthy, right? Here's how we know you're feeling better. All these other tests would not be clear. Here's how we know we're as healthy as we can get you. And then if we're doing other kinds of work, certainly NSA, that's home and homer, as Donnie used to say, that's forever, right? But I got to have a baseline to start from. So if you do have this going on, we may also notice, do you notice that? And they go, yeah, man, I've had sinus problems for years. Why didn't anyone ever tell me that before?
Right.
So let me ask you this. If the subluxations are related to your headaches, and we help the subluxation, we clear up the subluxation, correct it, whatever word you're going to use, what do you think would happen to your headaches? Socratic question. And they will go like this. I guess it would get better. And I would agree with them. I'm agreeing with their story. This isn't my story anymore. It's their story. And then I say, so let me ask you this. If this was also causing your sinus issues and we got it taken care of, what do you think would happen to your sinus issues? And they'll go like this. I guess they'd get better too. And I'd say, well, sure. I mean, if that's what's causing it. On the other hand, what if it's causing your headaches, but it's not causing your sinus problems? And we help it. What happens to your headaches? They'd probably get better. What would happen to your sinus problems? They probably wouldn't improve. Exactly. Let's do some more tests. Let's see what's going on. Now, that's just the beginning basic. That's just getting what's going on. I'm going to go through the spine, right? Then if I'm going to be talking, oh gosh, sorry, I'm forgetting the term that you guys use. The what's called of life, the there's winter, summer, fall.
Seasons
of life. If I'm going to go to seasons of life, I can do it through touch, tell, ask, teach also. Like I'm just saying, this is the base. This is where I start meeting people so they can see that, yes, my symptoms are related to, and I'm going to let them know, no, am I trying to mask your symptoms? No. But here's a question. If you're working with them, they're actually getting healthier, should their symptoms eventually change? Eventually.
I don't know.
Maybe, maybe not. But if they're getting healthier, let's just hang in there with that for a second. If they're getting less healthy, will they eventually end up most likely with more symptoms? And that symptom may be a heart attack and dying. If they're getting less healthy.
If they're not necessarily, because sometimes the people are less healthy and they have less symptoms because they don't provide less responsive.
Eventually, if they keep getting less healthy, will they most likely have more symptoms? Eventually. And again, that symptom for them might just be and death.
Not necessarily.
Okay, all right.
People have less.
I know. I mean, I know the one. I've been down the road. I'll leave that one alone. I'll leave that one alone. So, all right. So, in general, if people are truly getting healthier, eventually, not when they're going through reactivation or retracing, but eventually, what would you hope for them?
Greater vitality.
Greater vitality, more joy, more happiness, more flexibility.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Would there be a better possibility of them healing themselves and having less of particular symptoms? Better chance.
Well, yeah, because they're more adaptable. The more adaptable, more they're going to optimize their life.
Exactly. So, like, I get it. It's not all the time, and I understand the rep. I'm just saying, in general, when people are getting less healthy, eventually they usually get more symptoms or die. And as people are getting more healthy, if somebody's getting more healthy, most likely will they end up more like this or more like that?
Exactly. Yeah.
They're going to end up more like that. And they're going to have more range of motion. They're going to have more, adaptability and joy and happiness and blah, blah, blah. So if I've walked them through that, then all I have to do, and again, I'm going to help them understand the rest, but right here, I'm going to look at the whole story, which is right here. And I'm just going to say this to you, Danny. I'm going to say, so Danny, we just went through an exam. We found, C1, you have headaches, sinus problems, mid-back pain, you have indigestion, you got pain down your leg, you got all these different things going on. Where are your subluxations? How do I know that they're going to know where the subluxations are? How do I know that they're going to know it?
How?
Because they just circled them. They have this right in front of them. They just circled them. Now, what's my understanding of a subluxation? Stated disafferentation, disefferentation. Will I end up helping them get there? Yes, I will. But I'm not going to start there because that's most chiropractors don't get. So I'm not going to start at college. I'm going to just meet them where they're at and let them understand how the nervous system works. So I'm just going to say, where are your subluxations? And they'll go there, there, and there. And I'm going to say, what could they be related to? I'm not saying they are, but what could they be related to? And they're going to say, headache, sinus problems, mid-back pain, indigestion, pain down the leg. I have no energy. I'm miserable all the time. I can't keep a relationship, like whatever it is you found in their history, right? How do I know that they're going to find those?
Oh, I don't know. How do you know?
Because they just circled and underlined.
Okay.
That's how I know. They were sitting there and they go, yep, I got that, and I got that, and I got that. Good. I got this, I got this, I got this. Now all I got to do is say, where are they? What could they be causing? What do you think brought them on in the first place? Because we just talked about that. What do you think happens? Number two, what do you think happens if we don't do anything about this?
Get less healthy?
Yeah, get less healthy. That wouldn't be good. Definitely. Am I trying to scare them? Not at all. I just ask them, what do you think happens? What do you think happens if we change this, if we help the subluxations, if we turn the power back on, if we make you more adaptable? Again, whatever your rap is, whatever the rap is, what do you think happens? Well, I could probably feel better. Now, are we positive they're going to feel better, Danny?
No.
No, not at all. We're not positive. So we're honest with them. The odds are, if we're getting proper nerve supply and you're getting more healthy and adaptable, the odds are you can feel better. We monitor you closely, but it doesn't mean that you will, right? Anyone says that you will, that they're sure, they're lying. I mean, you can cut the arm off. They still got pain in their fingers, right? So I'm just going to ask them, where are they? What could they be causing? What brought them on? What happens if you don't get it taken care of? What happens if you do? Let me ask you this. If we were to really help you with this and help you with appropriate lifestyle choices, could you be healthier in 5 years than you are right now?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I know that you came in because you have headaches. And the last thing I want to do is try and mask those symptoms. I want you to know my goal is to help you get healthier and actually help you have a better life. That's my goal. No, that's not what you came in for, but it is a side effect of the work that we do. No one has ever said, no, thank you. I don't think I want that. Ever. They go far out. So then the last question is this. When you've got subluxations, neck pain, sinus problems, indigestion, coated tongue, stinky armpits, explosive diarrhea, you're tired all the time. You can't have a wonderful relationship. You're absolutely miserable. Nothing works in your life. Is that just a neck problem or a back problem, or you think it's an overall health and wellness problem? Danny, what do you think?
And that's an important point. That's an important point to say. This is not, look, someone who's 350 pounds goes into the gym. They don't have a weight problem. They have a health problem.
That's right. That's right. This is a health problem, not a back problem. The question, do you have a back problem or a health problem? I need to shift their paradigm that this is not a back problem. It's not a neck problem. It's not a whatever problem. It's an overall health and well-being problem. And this is the beginning of our conversation. From here, I can go to seasons of life. From here, I can go to gateways. From here, I can go to I'm adjusting from this field. But if I didn't connect these dots first, there's nothing that ties it to something they understand. And so how do I know if they get it? I'm going to ask them before they leave.
Right. Absolutely.
That's it. And every step of the way in the consult, I know the questions I'm going to ask. I know what I'm trying to accomplish. Reported findings.
The super important thing about this, well, there's a lot of important things, but major super important thing is that there's a plan. You're not going into a consult, a conversation, an examination without a plan, because it's the person's life that's on the line.
Absolutely. I walk in and I know all my clients that I work with know these are the questions you're going to ask. And you know exactly what you're trying to accomplish. How do I know what I'm trying to accomplish? Because in my notes, it literally says, here's the question I'm asking, and what are you trying to accomplish? Like every question, I know what I'm trying to accomplish. And Danny, once I accomplish it, what do I do?
Then you tell me.
I move on.
Okay, got it.
Once I accomplish it, I move on. I'm trying to build rapport. Is this the time to teach them? No. This is time to build rapport. Get rapport, move on. Relieve concerns and fears. Move on. Find out what's really going on.
Right.
Move on. Like there's really specific by design. If you do these things in a matter of minutes, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 minutes, you can get done what most doctors take 15, 20 minutes, an hour. And
again, as long as you're consistent, you're focused, and you're receiving them.
Absolutely.
Which so often doctors don't do. They don't ever receive the communication from the practice member. So when you don't receive them, then they're not going to receive you.
Exactly. That was just going to say that. Yes. So how can I get information past the reptilian brain of the neocortex for thinking, reasoning, and problem solving if they don't feel heard, if they don't feel received? If I'm a doctor first instead of a human being first and a doctor second. Right. A human being first and a doctor second. Care about them. Don't pretend to. Don't act like it because that would work better.
Right.
Just love these people, but have a design, know exactly where you're going. And you are leading the dance, but they don't know it.
Right. Right. Absolutely.
That's it.
And this is so helpful. So now if people want to dive deeper into this, we will put notes in the podcast notes, a link about that. So let's not cause any subluxations if people are driving. But if people want to dive more into this, where do they go? How do they connect with you more to dive deeper?
Here's the deal. If they'll go to the THE OHC Optimal Health Coaching, so the OHC system.com/mile high. These are the things that they'll get. One, there's an on-demand program that I have that you can watch for free that goes into extreme detail about this stuff right here and way, way more than we were able to go into. Number two, I'll send you one of these right here. And you can have a PDF and make as many as you like forever and ever and ever. Three, if you'd like a consult with me, if you would like to practice in a model, optimal health versus pain, set a consult with me. I'd be happy to talk with you and see if I might be the guy to help you out. And there might be something else on there, but I forget.
Well, we will have it all in the links with you and, with the podcast. And I'll tell you I want to ask you this actually, and I'll tell you, what's one of the great wins that you've seen? I know you've helped so many people for so long. What's one of the great wins you've seen in a practice or in a person that really made you smile because because of what they learned from you?
I'll tell you, this is a really interesting time to ask that question. COVID was a very scary time for a lot of practices.
Right.
People were shutting down. I had several offices that they were not allowed in their office. And again, I know you know this.
Right, yeah.
Right at this moment, I have more doctors that I'm coaching that are waitlisted anywhere from 1 week to like 6 weeks out before a new patient can come in than any other time in my 22 years of coaching.
Wow.
And here's why. Because so many people finally said to me, okay, what am I going to do? People are not coming in. It's an exodus, blah, blah, blah. And I said, quit just talking about pain, acknowledge their pain, and talk about health. There's never been a time, other than the AIDS, if you were in that community, there's never been a time that people in our community are more concerned about their health, their well-being, their immune system than right now. Quit being a second-rate back doctor. Quit being a pain doctor. Start talking about health and wellness. Start finding out what level of health they want to get to. Start helping them understand how their nervous system controls everything. And if you're getting proper nerve supply, you got a better chance of being healthy. And if you're not getting proper nerve supply, it can cause all kinds of problems. Start telling the truth. Quit saying what you think you need to say so that they'll give you a few bucks, and just start telling the truth. And so many doctors dove in, really went for it, and are fully waitlisted because of that. When people make that jump, and I know, Danny, that you see this over and over and over again in your world and in the NSA community, when people jump in and finally quit trying to do this because I think it's what they want me to do, and you just start being honest and tell your truth in a way that they can hear it, you cannot handle the load. Right. And, one of the officers I'm working with, his goal was to have people fly in to see him. The year before 2020, he had 23 people fly in from different states to work with him. That was his goal.
Right.
COVID knocked that down, then it's back up again. But you can have any kind of practice you want. You really can. You just got to be clear about what it is that you're doing. So that's what really
and what you want and what your vision is.
That absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
Wow. Well, I'll tell you, the people that that work with you are very fortunate, but more fortunate are the people that are receiving care from the people that work with you, because that's why I know you put the time and energy, is because there's a world out there of spines distorted, and there's a community that needs the doctors that are in there, and the doctors need to be able to impact more lives. And that always, there's it's such a gift to be able to help others through that. So that goes back to your favorite quote. It's funny. I know this is your favorite quote because it's also my favorite quote. So I think it's a small world, which is you never know how far reaching something you say, do, or think today will affect the lives of millions tomorrow. Absolutely love that we have that same vision. And you doing that then impacts more people.
Yes, small pebble, huge ripple.
Right, exactly.
That's it. And I just, for those of you who are listening, I promise you, people want this. They just don't know where to get it. They don't know that it's you doing it. They don't know it's chiropractor. They're not going to look in, well, it used to be the yellow pages. They're not going to Google under chiropractic to look to get healthy, stay healthy, and have the best life possible. But that's something that you can deliver to people. You just have to learn a way to help them understand that because they want it.
Right.
They just don't know that you can deliver it.
Right. So brilliant. So brilliant. Russ, thank you so much for being of service to so many chiropractors for so many years and continuing to be of service. And I'll tell you, I know it's been I've said it many times, it's been a sacred time to be a chiropractor through the last year and a half, nearly 2 years. And I know for you, it's been a sacred time to be able to help others and to see the blessings that they get to give to others, and seeing that exponentially grow. And man, the world needs it right now for sure. So again, thank you so much for being on the Mile High Podcast. And where can people get to connect with you next?
This Sunday, I'm speaking at the California Chiropractic Association for a couple hours.
Excellent. I knew that was coming up.
Out in Napa Valley, right out near my neck of the woods. So yeah, I'm pretty excited to do that. And I don't do a whole lot of speaking anymore, but go to my website, theohcsystem.com, and check it out. If you're looking for this kind of help, I can do it. I can help.
Well, check out Dr. Russ Rosen. He's been helpful for me many times over the years. The OHCsystem.com. And again, we'll put the link in the notes with the podcast. But also check out joining us at Mile High in June 2022. It's the highest chiropractic event on the planet. And Russ, thank you so much for all that you're doing for humanity.
Thank you, my brother. It was so good to see you. Long time. Good.
Really? Yeah. So we'll see you at Mile High, www.milehighchiro.org, and check out Dr. Russ Rosen. The more you know about the neuroscience of communication, the more you can impact the neuroscience of your practice members. So keep changing spines and lives and minds with chiropractic.